discusses his childhood and his teenage years filled with minor troubles. He recounts how his drinking habits escalated during his bartending career and later as a brand ambassador for alcohol companies. Thomas speaks about the moment he realized he needed help. His story underscores the importance of community seeking help and the transformative power of sobriety. And this is Thomas's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. It was vital in keeping me accountable. It doesn't interrupt my life, it only enhances my life. People in my program swore by it. These are just a few quotes from SoberLink users. SoberLink is not just any breathalyzer, it's the breathalyzer, designed specifically for those in recovery from alcohol addiction. How it works is simple. You'll test at the same time every day, 2 to 3 times a day. It has a built-in camera that will take a photo during your test, so it knows it's you testing. Tamper sensors will flag any attempts to cheat, and instant, easy-to-read results are sent directly to your loved ones because it's not just about proving you're sober. It's about sharing your success, establishing patterns of trust, and dispelling doubts with hard evidence. SoberLink, proof of sobriety at your fingertips. Visit Soberlink.com/recover to sign up and receive $50 off your device today. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. With over 150 episodes now out there, it's been an incredible journey. And I want to give a big shout out to Sober Buddy. The meetings that we're having over there are just incredible and seem to be better by the day. A lot of new members, a lot of listeners from the podcast have joined Sober Buddy, and I would love to invite you to come and check out our virtual community with over 40 live support meetings per month, as well as the Sober Superstar course, everything you need to get started, as well as a supportive and incredible community. I'll drop the link below in the show notes where you can get a free 30-day trial. I host 3 groups per week on the app myself, and I'm really active around there supporting our members, and I would love to meet you. So check out the free trial, see if it's a hit for you. So many people are getting and staying sober because of their experience on Sober Buddy. Now let's get to this episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got Thomas with us. Thomas, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you for reaching out and being willing to jump on here and share your story with all of us.
No, more than happy to. Thanks for having me.
Of course, 100%. So what was it like for you growing up?
I think my childhood was fairly normal. I think that a lot of people who struggle with addictions have these, absolutely horrendous childhoods, and that a lot of things stem from that. I don't think that mine was necessarily that bad at all. I grew up in Chicago. My parents got divorced when I was pretty young. My dad stayed in Detroit. My mom came here to Chicago, Illinois. And I still saw my dad a great deal. They were still very friendly. So I didn't really have a lot of trauma or anything from that. But when I was 7, my father died of cancer, which obviously was pretty hard. But I also think that at the age of 7, age of 7, it's hard to process. But then from there, we moved around a few times, all within the Chicago or Chicagoland area, bounced from school to school. Pretty happy childhood. And then, come my teenage years, I, started getting in a little trouble here and there. Nothing huge, no real jail time or anything like that. I got arrested for graffiti a few times, just childish, kind of petty kid shit. But overall, a pretty good childhood. I had a younger sister. She passed away about 11 years ago. But it was my mom, my sister, and I for my entire childhood.
Yeah, wow. Looking back and even hearing a lot of stories here on the podcast, it seems like it's maybe even close to a 50-50 split. about sort of some things going all right. I mean, that must have been, and I'm just thinking about it here, really difficult for you at 7 too, for the situation with your father. I mean, do you do counseling or do you talk about anything like at that age? Is there anything that goes on?
My mom did a good job. She knew a therapist, so I definitely went and chatted with her a few times. But I think that when you're 7, it's hard to fully understand your emotions and your feelings, let alone go verbalize that and speak about what you're feeling to somebody. I have a 7-year-old daughter now, and I know that, she's incredibly intelligent, and she has a hard time, sometimes expressing herself. So they do offer therapy. Or I just wouldn't go to them that often. So I definitely wasn't on the honor roll or even close to it.
You and me both, man. I struggled with school a lot too. I mean, it was tough for me though, because struggling with school, I mean, because it really hurt my self-confidence. It was valued. The value of doing well in high school was really high. I mean, my family didn't really push it on me, do well, or I mean, I was diagnosed with ADHD too, or I had trouble paying attention. And then I was on Adderall, and then I stopped taking the Adderall, and the things just blew up. In high school, I had like maybe this extended release stuff, and I used to just take it because it was what the doctor said, and everything. My parents were like, "You got to take this." And then I remember one day I missed it. We were rushing around, and I didn't take it. And let me tell you, it was the strangest feeling in the entire world, because I felt like for once I was alive, and I was feeling emotions, and I was just like, what happens if I kind of push the limits here and I just pretend to take it? And that was just like the start of like really serious behavioral stuff really crept into my life. But I felt like really robotic on the medication. And it's also so strange and makes a ton of sense looking back about how many people I've talked to on the show that have struggled with ADHD, and we're ahead of ourselves. I think
like a lot of high school seniors, I didn't really have a vision. I actually didn't graduate high school. I got in some trouble at my high school towards the back half of senior year, so I was almost done. And they essentially kind of gave me an ultimatum of drop out right now or you're expelled. So I dropped out. I got my GED, went to community college for a couple years before going to a more classic 4-year college here in Chicago. Bounced around, moved around a bit, moved to the West Coast for a little while when I was like 19. But I didn't really have a vision. But the entire time I was in college, I was working in restaurants as well. I was like a busboy, a waiter. I kind of did all the different positions. And then my junior year of college, I started bartending right when I turned 21 and just kind of fell in love with it. And college took a backseat. And I just knew pretty early on into the bar career that, like, this is it. I found what I want to do, what I'm good at. I'm a very outgoing, very social person. So it all just kind of clicked for me when you ask what I want to do.
Yeah, well, with you too. So that's kind of your first job, right? I mean, that's probably a really common job. I'm thinking from